Okay, so hello everyone. Today we have with us Mr. Chandan Taparia, who is the head of technical and derivatives research at Motilal Oswal, Mumbai. So has completed his MBA in finance. He holds several prestigious certifications like NISM, SEBI certifications, etc. He's a speaker, a guide, and a mentor at several leading business schools across the country and has marked his presence in leading business channels, to name a few: CNBC Awaaz, Z Business, ET Now Swadesh, and many more. And today, he will be shedding some light on India as a $5 trillion economy. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. So it's a great honor and always a privilege to talk about the India. And important part is great to see how the country is growing well. We have seen the journey of last many decades, and we believe the next couple of years going to be the key changer. So when I talk about the Indian market, I totally believe that Indian economy is going to grow better than world or better than any other country. So if I look at the India in last one decade, overall we have seen 10 to 12% CAGR growth in the Indian markets. We believe that equity indices are the barometer of the Indian markets. So if I just talk about the price movement of the Sensex, we have seen 10 to 12% CAGR in last 10 years. Sensex itself moved from 20,000 to around 60,000 in last 10 years. And all these things happened, and India's growth and GDP has grown even after all the concerns, whether we talk about ILFS fiasco, even we talk about COVID or the demonetizations. So one thing is clear in the Indian economy: the downs are temporary and ups are permanent. If I look at the India's growth, that is better than the world, but slightly or lower than the China. So in last couple of years, we have seen that world is growing at a growth of around 2% CAGR, while China is growing at a growth rate of around 10%. At the same time, India is growing at a growth rate of around 4 to 5%. So India is better than the world growth, but lower than the China. So I think the way we have a better demographic situations, we are likely to do better. If I look at the recent growing economy, after the Saudi Arabia, the India is second largest economy, which is growing well, even after all the concerns of the global market. Even if I'm talking about the dollar index, crude prices, war between Russia and the Ukraine, concerns in the recession at US market. So if I look at the runway about India, so India is right now where China was in 2006. And in Chinese market, we have seen huge growth from 2006 to 2020. So in last 14 years, China has grown by 12%. India recently is growing by 4 to 5% CAGR. And we are now at a place and fundamentals where China were earlier. So we believe that India is likely to follow the China, because now China plus one and local for vocal, make in India, all things are helping well to the Indian market. And you must be knowing that recently the India is becoming self-empowered in the defense things. We have built so many aircrafts, we built so many machineries, even automobile mobilizations and everything are working well into the Indian markets. So totally, I believe that India is the next $1 trillion opportunity. And over the next 10 years, we believe that India is going to be the $5 trillion economy. Now the question is, why we are talking about $5 trillion economy? Because India took around 58 to 60 years to reach the $1 trillion economy after its independence. Then it took around 7 years for second $1 trillion. Now it's near to $2.8 trillion, and by around 2023-24 will be around $3 trillion economy. So the recent third $1 trillion is going to be added in around 8-9 years. And the way pace rate, the growth rate is happening, we believe that $4 trillion will happen in just next 4 to 5 years, near around 2026, 2027. And by 2030-32, India will be a country which will be around $5 trillion GDP. So now already the base is built, and we have noticed in all the developing nation, the next $1 trillion is coming at much lower time than what they've added value in $1 trillion or $2 trillion or $3 trillion. So right now we are economy of $2.8 trillion, and we believe in between 2030 to 2034, the India will be the country of $5 trillion. So I think whether the companies which are listed on the stock exchange or the new startup will replace them or new startup will come, and ultimately all the sum up will be $5 trillion economy. And we have noticed that India is one of the strongest country which recovered well post the pandemic. If I look at the global scenario, whether you talk about the US market or the US market, US or UK, they are still suffering from the recession and inflations, but there is no major reaction into the Indian market. If I look at the database of GST collection, income tax collection, even the sales of land and property, we are growing. Even I shared amazing figure that recently the new Safari booking started, and the booking has seen in just few days. Even the business class automobiles, all they are having the growth on year-on-year or quarter-on-quarter basis, which clearly indicates that every year new taxpayers are adding and they are giving more tax in a country, which clearly indicates that India is growing. So if I sum up each and everything, India is going to be the $5 trillion economy. Now question is, what are the things which can help for the India, and what is the fundamental which are favorable for the India as a country? So we believe that India is going to be the among the top performer country in terms of the growth. If I talk about entire world as a whole, the key advantage for Indian economy is first is the democracy. India is the largest democracy in the world. Rule of law prevails here, and the good part is that we are having this stable government after a long time. And in that stable government, we believe that over next 5 to 10 years, there is no going to be threat given the current political scenario in the country. And the good part is that there is good relations, and the relation is continuously improving between central and state. Many states where central and the state government are same, so their combination and continuous relation is helping for the policy making and improvement into the infrastructure and the industrial growth as a whole. And the biggest part for the nation is that now we are heading towards one nation, one India. So in India, we have one unified market, one income tax, one GST, one Aadhaar. We are heading towards one ration card, one mobile number, and then we'll be heading towards one big number. So one nation idea is also helping. India is a big democracy, and this central-state relationship is going to help for the policy as well as the industrial growth as a whole in the Indian market. Second important part is the demography. India is the second highest population in the world. So huge domestic market, and the important part is that 40% population are below 20 years. So you can understand that over the next 5 years to 7 years, these youngsters, either they are going to clear their post-graduations, either they are going to start any startup, or they will be working as a managers or the senior level position into the big corporates into India INC. So there is huge entry for the fresh talent in the country into the corporate. So that will help all these companies to grow well with the new ideations, with new energy. So that is the biggest strength in India. And the good part is that all the population, right now we are a country of around 140 crore. Out of that, 85% people are below 50 years. And we believe that in India, people have tendency to work till 55 to 60 years. So still these people are likely to work for next 10 years. And the 40% population, which is below 20, they are going to work for next 30 years. And over the next 5 to 8 years, there will be the entry of all these youngsters who are passing their studies either from the prestigious institute, and they are having good command on their practical exposure. So definitely they are going to add value to the nation. And that is the biggest reason that why we are looking for huge growth into the India's growth in GDP, and we are looking for a target of $5 trillion. Now, the other factor. So we talked about two important factors, that is the democracy, second is the demography, and third and important part is the digitalization. We have seen there is huge growth in the digital activity. Before the demon and after the demon, we have seen huge growth. even Indian IT sector is growing with a growth of around 20% CAGR. We are having huge smartphone clients into the nation. People started looking for the net banking. People using mobile applications to the trade, to order, and e-commerce has also become the huge market for the India. So this digitalization growth and digitalization revolution is also helping the nation to grow with the faster speed. Now, other important part which are also helping the country is the dollar inflow, forex reserve, and now few concerns are there. Stability of the interest rate and inflation is required. But even if I compare with the global market, we are not much depreciating compared to the other currencies of the other nations. We have seen a huge jump in the dollar index. Because of this, your USD INR has grown. But comparatively, we have not depreciated much if I look at the other competitive nations. So that is giving some stability. Now, biggest benefit for India is going to be the decline in the crude, because we are among the top 2-3 country which import the crude. And the good part is the crude prices are falling from the recent peak, which will help the country for the balance of payment, which will also help for your inflow and the forex reserve. So these are the couple of things which are adding the flavor for the pace of the growth. And we have seen that comparatively crude is down from its peak level, and that is significantly easing your CAD, current account deficits. And added advantage is that India is a nation which doesn't grow only into the day, it grows in the night also. Many new players, startups, the support for the government is so powerful. Even if I talk about each and every sector, whether you talk about the railway, whether you talk about your international policies, whether we talk about infrastructure, cement business, development of the economic and business parks, ideation for the new generation, 5G automations, all these are the value-added advantage for the India, which is clearly says that don't bet against the India. India is going to be the $5 trillion economy. However, recently we have seen some knee-jerk reaction because of the COVID. But now, when other countries are still facing the lockdown or the concern from the COVID, including the China, India is among the country which is totally free. And most of the companies have given the corporate result and sales higher than the pre-COVID setup. So which is clearly indicating that India is a country of 140 crore, which totally believe in the consumptions. And that is the reason that consumption theme is going to do well. Again, the good part is we are a country where we have 75 to 80% population stays into the rural area, and rural income is growing comparatively. And we are nowadays making the defense systems at in-house. So that will also help us to stop the order to the outside country. So rural incomes, rural growth, better monsoons, multiple seasons for the agricultures are also the value-added advantage for the country as a whole. So all these set up and the factors clearly says that India is going to be the next $5 trillion economy, and we should participate well in it, whether in terms of the professional way, whether in terms of the corporates, and definitely this nation is going to do well. So that's all from my side about the India as a $5 trillion economy over the next 1 or 1.5 decade. Thank you.
Wonderful, sir. So what I wanted to ask you is, what policy reforms, according to you, are important to achieve the equitable growth in India?
Yeah, so couple of decades back or couple of years back, India is a country where most of the corporate used to worry about the policy paralysis. But nowadays, as center and state are having healthy relations, so there is no competitions or barrier between state to center to pass any kind of resolutions for the growth of business. Apart from that, as I mentioned, that one nation idea is also helping well. India is a nation where many people are still below the poverty line. So nowadays there is huge account of the Chandan. So because of that, subsidy directly goes to the real citizens. So that is also helping country to help the people who are at the lower level. So I think all these are the reason which is removing the policy paralysis, good government, stable government. And nowadays, India is among the top country compared to the world or other nations. So even we are a key member in IMF, in NATO, even in other organizations. So that is the reason that there is no worry about the policy paralysis. Earlier, some threat were there related to the cross-border concerns, whether we talk about the POK or whether something related to the China. But as we are having the huge support from the international countries or international federations, I think there is no concern about the nations. That is the reason that there is no worry about the policy paralysis. And the good part is that in this government, they are also claiming about good governance, lower government, good governance. And most of the ministers who are ruling, they are having the passion, commitment, and having good experience to do their business. So that is also helping the nation to get the policy to pass immediately. Even if I talk about the Nitin Gadkari, he's into the infrastructure, road, and he is among who has changed the road transportation in the India. He is continuously focusing on your EVs. There is subsidies for EVs in nation. However, we need to develop so much infrastructure. But I've just given you the argument that why there is no worry about the policy paralysis in a nation.
Fair enough. You spoke about various sectors which will contribute to growth of Indian economy, making it a $5 trillion economy. So according to you, what are the different sectors you see booming in like next 5 to 10 years in India?
So we have done the study about the country which are now developing to the develop or emerging to the developing to the develop. So whenever any country add to the GDP growth, mainly their spending happens multi-folds and discretionary spending happens for consumptions. And India is second largest population into the world. And we believe that consumption is going to be the biggest theme over the next 1 to 2 decades, given the demography or population scenario. So consumption will work well, whether there is a recession or concern. Consumption is going to help because necessity is important for any nation. Apart from that, the lifestyle is changing. So the way of consumptions is improving. Even we have noticed at the time of COVID, everything was said, people were staying at home, but people were getting delivery at home. Consumption theme was still booming that time. Apart from that, without solid infrastructure, no nation can go to the next level. Because whenever the road goes to one state to next state or one village to next village, that carries the prosperity. So there is a still huge growth for transportations, whether we talk about the highways, bridges, inland roads. Apart from that, we have seen developed your port and your airports. So I believe consumptions, infrastructure, capital goods, and I cannot forget to talk about banking and financial system, because without leverage or banking system, it's very tough for the money flow. So these are the couple of sectors which will definitely lead to the India's growth. And one more thing I want to add, that is the e-commerce. So financials, banking, e-commerce, consumption, infrastructure, these are the couple of sectors which are definitely going to add value for the India's growth as a whole.
So we see that there is a year-on-year increase in inflation as well. So how do you think inflation is going to impact the India growth?
So see, I don't think we should worry about the inflation. Even if we are growing and inflation is also rising, that is good. If you notice that inflation by default has a tendency to increase. If I look at the last 5 decades, even if I talk about after the independence, and because of the inflation, your gold prices will increase, your property prices will increase, your equity prices will increase, your salary will increase. So I think healthy inflation is okay, because if you don't have inflation, people don't likely to work. They have tendency to stay at what they are. But nowadays, everyone, whether we talk about corporate, salaried person, even to the business class, everyone is fighting hard, putting their efforts, because ultimate aim is to beat the inflation. So definitely there should be the lower inflation, but still if inflation is high, but we are growing higher than the growth of the inflation, I don't see any major concern from the inflation. Even if I compare from the global peer to the global countries to the India, still we are having lesser growth of the inflation than what the US and other countries are ever. So I think inflation may be there, that should be, but if inflation gets stability because of the agriculture, because of the government policy, then that will add more growth part to the countries.
All right. So the divide within the country we see has widened in terms of growth of income in the post-pandemic era. And say if the government wishes to make India a $5 trillion dollar economy, it should plan on who will hold the major chunk of income. So, what are your views on this?
See, I think India is a country which always believe in the diversifications. We don't have any single language, no single religions. We always believe Vibhinta mein ekta. So I think all the sector will work, and united effort will take the nation to grow higher. I believe there will be the corporates, startup. Recently, we have seen many listing of the startup which market capital gone to around 1 lakh crore. So there are so many such kind of companies who are there, whether we talk about Nika, whether we talk about Paytm, whether we talk about the Zomato. So many companies are there which were a startup, but now they are betting big on consumption part. So the country or the investor are giving them valuations. If I talk about the pre-pandemic and post-pandemic, people have realized that if you are earning, you have to earn fast. If you are working, you have to spend well, because no one knows how much time you are going to work. Because in pandemic, people have realized that if you have to grow, you have to grow fast. If you have to achieve something, you have to achieve something fast. If you have dream, you have to find that dream very early. So nowadays, because of all such things and pandemic, people have realized that they need to definitely save the money, but they cannot compromise to spend for them and their family. So because of that, your discretionary expenses has gone rapidly. That is also helping the corporate to see the boost in the pandemic sales, post-pandemic sales. So I think all the sector will perform well, whether you talk about the corporate, salary people, whether you talk about tax collection, GST, everything will be combined, work for the growth of the country.
Okay. So, do you believe that government is doing enough to boost the infrastructure pipeline in the country?
See, I totally believe that India is a country where growth is by default. Yeah, definitely the government or strong government is required. But the good part, as I mentioned, that 40% population is below 20 years. And all these youngsters are really working hard. And value addition is the government is also supporting for vocal for local or skill India, make in India programs. We have seen that government is supported well in all the industry. So I think government is supporting well. We need more your public-private partnership kind of uh, system where your public can provide their input and finance to the government companies. Apart from that, we need a stable government over the next 2 or 3 tenures. Even strong relationship required into the state and center that is already there and improving. So I think government is doing well. And after the independence, we are really having a strong government which is totally focused for the growth of a nation. And the good parties are income growth in terms of the all the nations. If I look at the ranking of the India in growth in last couple of years has already spiked so much. As I mentioned that nowadays India is among top 2 country if I talk about the growth rate. So I think government is doing well. Apart from that, all the corporates, they are putting their efforts, and all the people who are professional, they are giving their input. So government, corporate, and professionals, everyone, and I cannot forget about the agriculture, rural, and farmer. Everyone is participating, And that is the reason that why India is growing well.
Okay, so this will be my final question to you, sir. So, which are the areas the government should focus on to achieve this ambitious target?
Yeah, so like government should focus on the infrastructure, because infrastructure is important for any nations. Apart from that, there should some sort of advisory council for all the sectors. Even earlier, the textile industry was having some cutthroat competitions from the China and other countries. Uh, Again, some sort of easy finance should be provided. However, government has really given the good finance to the many nations, even after so many ups and downs into the global and the economic domestic scenario. Apart from that, I think government should involve into the many local bodies. They should make some governing body into the different states to help the corporates, and already they are doing it. So I think government is doing their work. They need to focus more into the infra boost. And now, as we are here to compete with the global countries, I think government should focus more into the development of the road, so that we can adopt to the EV system or EV technology. Now people are talking about robot, drone. So if we don't boost our technology, we cannot survive this growth. So technology, infrastructure, financials, government council, bodies, coordination with your people who are having into your monetary funds, even to the economists, they should be given the contribution, they should be taken into the council body. So I think that will help as a nation, and that will add value to all these sectors which we are talking about.
Okay, great. So, with this, we come to an end of our session. It was really insightful and wonderful getting to know your perspectives on how India can achieve the $5 trillion economy target. And it was wonderful hosting you, sir.
Thank you so much.